Welcome back, you filthy exiles. So, after a spate of consistent failures, I believe I have learnt enough about builds and how to not approach them to basically figure out how to play some obscure stuff. So, more or less, obviously, there's the meta builds, which I've got a Spark build guide that I'm going to put out for the Gemelling Legionnaire. I actually think the mercenary is pretty much the best class as far as like spread of ascendancies right now. It definitely for me is like the more mobility focused ascendancy that you can do a lot more like lucrative stuff with. It's perfectly positioned in the tree to basically get the best of everything, right? Um, Now, for this particular one, I was like, well, what happens if we have these nodes up here, which I haven't yet spec'd into, which have like cross strike and dual wield, and I'm like, what happens if we like play a dual wield build? And the other things that I noticed that stuck out to me were, by the way, we're going to approach videos like this. We're just going to do a bit of a diary series of different builds that I approach. If it fails, it fails. If it doesn't, I actually feel like this one could be okay. Um, but basically, like, we have this pinpoint here, attacks gain increased accuracy rating equal to their crit chance. So if we get increased crit, we get increased accuracy. But then also we can then stack accuracy up. So we have Falcon Drive, so increased attack speed per 250 accuracy. So theoretically, if we stack crit, we stack accuracy, we stack attack speed, right? Now we have acceleration here and a bunch of other really good things. Now, this character that I'm going to try out now is going to be more so focused on like the, what's the right word? It's going to be focused towards the sort of, I don't know, full-blown evasion tank sort of scenario. I haven't really played around with dodge too much, but I wanted to play enough builds to get enough under my belt to basically be able to do stupid stuff like this. Now we could get acrobatics, which means can evade all hits. Now, how much evasion do we need to do that? I don't know yet. We're going to find that out the hard way. Now, the other thing that this does really well is increase damage to, pardon me, unique enemies. So, like, it's at T7 right now, and as you can see, like, my socketed jewels are just wrong, like, in every way. I'm even missing jewels, so we can definitely add a lot of stuff to this build. Pardon me. And so we also take Giant Slayer, which all of this gives us increased damage against rare enemies, which is all really useful. And then we have like a culling strike threshold. So the biggest disadvantage, we got heaps of attack crit as well here, and we could also come down and get more evasion. Now, the biggest problem with this build that I see so far is AoE is pretty bad. Like, it's not good. Now, we also have access to these nodes here. Again, like, this gives us tons of damage if we're surrounded by enemies. So we could potentially get the best of every, every part of the, world, essentially. So, yeah, I started playing around with this, and I'm actually going to see if I can progress this build up pretty far. Like, this is a level 84 toon that I just had chilling there. I was sort of doing okay with a bleed build, but I really wanted to muck around with it a bit more. And then I was like, well, I had these two maces. They're pretty good single-handed maces. No one's really playing, like, single-handed maces. So I was like, yeah, well, maybe that'll work. Now, if we could get enough, like, strength, which I don't think we can with this build, single-hand maces are going to have to be the thing. We've also got these nodes here that allow maim and increased attack speed and increased damage. So we'll play around with all of these to try and get the damage stats up. Now, this does use like Berserk as well. So we basically rage stack. We have Hammer of the Gods. Bone Shatter I've only got on a 1 link, and Bone Shatter is just stupidly powerful. But basically we use Berserk, and so with Berserk we get increased rage, and then we do increased damage with increased rage, and I think this is not even like percentage scaled up, so we'll change that. But yeah, anyway, the idea is basically to just run like a classic flail around. So it's a stupid concept, right? It looks like this. It's the dumbest looking animation I think I've ever seen in a game. Like, it's just like, whoa, windmill mode. Anyway, let's try a map, and I'll talk you through where we're at on the tree and all the gearing, as I normally would with the video, but let's just try a map, and you can have a look and see what it's like. We're probably not going to be able to complete it. We have scuffed resistances. We're at 75% evasion, but we're going to try and get to like 20,000 evasion, and then we'll try and run like dodge. And if we can run dodge, we'll basically become like crazy levels of dodge. We'll become essentially immortal. So that's basically where I want to get to. Now, mana doesn't really matter because at the end of the day, we've got enough to run our Hammer of the Gods and our Bone Shatter and Leap Slam. I haven't like linked very much of anything up except for my 5 link setup on my Mace Strike. Now, without rage, it's 17.7k DPS, but it does go up to like, I think 25 to nearly 30k. And bearing in mind, it's like level 28 now, so we can probably get better gear for that. My armor is not great. It's literally just anything I could scratch together at this stage. Like, this can definitely be way better. There's tons of improvements that we can do across the board to make this build actually semi-viable. And including more charms, like if I was going to get charms, you know, stack another 2 points down into, I think it's here, for another charm slot. And charms are going to be a big thing for this build because we're going to generate a lot out of it. But yeah, anyway, let's run a map and I'll show you what this looks like when you're flailing around in a map. Okay, so we'll just run like a T7. Which I know is low, but like considering I've got all scuffed gear and I'm not optimized in any way, shape or form, I think this is like pretty cool. So basically, like, you know, we're super fast. We also have the aura that gives us increased evasion, but basically it's the idea. Now this works really well on the Witch Hunter because of that big AoE on the Ascendancy. But basically we just windmill through enemies. And I don't know why this is so satisfying for me. Like, you know, when we hit Bone Shatter, we can blow entire packs up. Is it as fast as like Arc? Hell no, but it probably could be later down the track. But it's quite defensive, considering. I feel like this has potential to be one of the dumbest builds in the game, but... And there we go, bosses it rips through because we've got all those nodes doing additional damage, so we do tons of additional damage for bosses. And then basically, yeah, we light up a whole area. Now, theoretically, we do like leap slam, and then we just like slam in and crack everything. I also don't have Culling Strike on this just yet too, so if we put Culling Strike on this, could be pretty wild. We need to get like resistances to ailments or ailment reduction too. But like, this is not, you know, a magic map, this is an alked map, so it's not too bad. I don't hate this. I feel like if I invest in more speed or more damage, this could be ridiculously amusing. We just need to find a way to get better at AoE. So we hit Hammer of the Gods. We've like permanent max rage. Almost permanent max rage because we're running rage on hit, but ultimately we want to put that on the tree so we can run another damage gem. But so damn fast. Take the other boss down there.
Not yet.
Damn it. Yeah, it's oh, there we go. There's my death because of ground dot. Anyway, it's just surprisingly amusing, this build. I reckon I can take it somewhere, but this is just a proof of concept, just for a bit of fun. So if you guys want to see me progress this, 100%, I'll do it on stream. But I thought I'd just like do a video just covering off and being like, yeah, this is pretty cool. So I'll talk you through basically the tree where it's currently at, and I'll put a POB together for where it is currently. And then we'll just track the progress of how we go at the build. But I reckon I can get this to like, you know, T15s in the matter of the next few days with a little bit of investment, maxing out resistances and all the rest of it. And we could probably make a really cool build out of it. Okay, so just talking through gear as it currently is. Now, two of the pieces of gear that we're going to need to progress this build are going to be really, really good maces. Now, I got a +4 and a +3 here. Ideally, we need like attack speed, which we have on both of these right now, and accuracy. Now, I'm going to try and get ones for crit, which is probably going to be a lot harder. We may have to craft it into the build. But yeah, for now, these are going to do the job. Now, the problem with one-handed maces right now with builds is that they're just not very good and they don't scale really well, or at least nobody's really working with them to make them scale very well, because two-handed just totally outperforms. But I feel like maybe we could make this work if we have enough attack speed to compensate for the damage. Now, the helm right now I've got is Thrill Steel. It's where a lot of my speed is coming from with Onslaught. But I actually feel like we could probably get rid of this, put an Invasion helm in, and then basically like gear that up a little bit and make it a lot more defensive, deal with like max evasion and stuff like that, really throttle that up. Now the chest piece in this, again, like reduce slowing potency of buffs. It's not a bad chest piece, it's got a lot of evasion, but we can get a way better evasive chest piece. You know, we don't really have T10 rolls on here or anything like that, which is definitely harder to get, pardon me. But yeah, we could definitely do a lot with this. So there's a lot to be desired from the chess piece right now. Amulet's just bad. It's just like 21% of damage taken Recryptor's Life could be a good stat. Again, like that is not necessarily a very high roll either. And like we start to look at things like Defiance of Destiny. Is that better? Not too sure yet. We're going to have to figure that out. But damage recoup might actually be quite good. But we need the spirit. Right now we're actually short 40 spirit as well, so we could probably chuck another aura in pretty easily and then buff up our damage further, or our defense further, sorry. So we're going to have to do that. I'm thinking maybe Time of Need, or maybe something that gives me AoE. Now the disadvantage with like with Herald of Ice, for example, in this circumstance, is not going to work with maces, right? It only, sorry, I don't have enough intelligence on the build to be able to make it work right now. Now, if we could get intelligence into the build, there's no argument to say that potentially we could use that and that could be really useful. But again, how useful is the next question. So maybe just like something that gives us crazy levels of survivability is going to be the go like Time of Need. But we'll trial that out and see how we can go with that. Then rings wise, basically these aren't very good right now. So Leech is pretty meh. And so we basically want life on hit now. We need the resistances, so we can't switch to a Thief's Torment. So we're going to have to basically stick it out with these rings for now until we find something a little bit better. The other thing is we want to see if we can get like, you know, more physical damage similar to this, but with all the resistances, and if we can get like any attack speed. I don't think you can get attack speed rolls on rings, but if you can, I'm going to try. You can definitely get that on gloves. So on the gloves, we basically want +2 melee skills, attack speed, life, and then resistances and flat fizz damage. So these gloves are sort of there, but they're only good for like the interim. And we want to max out evasion. We don't really care about any armor. Armor is just totally useless in this game. So all gear's got to be max evasion. Now, same goes with the belt. So basically we need life, we need resistances. That's about it. Now, if we can get like any more regeneration, something like that, or +1 charm, that's going to be the goal for this. And then boots, basically 30% movement speed's a bare minimum. These boots are pretty bad because we can get boots with way better evasion. Resistances are decent, everything else is decent on this. So these are good for like right now to cover off on enough resistances to get us over the line to sort of progress this. But we're going to have to pump a bit more currency into this to make it work. Amulet, or charm, sorry, first charm, always take like Amethyst Charm if you're playing a life-based character. Reason being is it's just a huge advantage against chaos damage, and we're going to have to find gear that mitigates chaos damage because we basically just have to become impenetrable as an evasion character to make this even moderately work. Now, right now we've got Mace Strike in the build. That's going to be our primary skill. So martial tempo, close combat, brutality, and rage. And we need rage. Now, as we level up and we get closer to like 95 or whatever it is, I'm going to get like the extra point there, but we're not going to get that for a while. So basically, we're just going to have to work with what we got. Now, I've got Wind Dancer in the build. This gives us like an insane level of evasion. I've got Cannibalism and Blind and Maim as well, so on hit. So basically we blind everything around us, and then we also maim everything as well. But I'm not too sure what the effect is of this on hit, or whether or not this actually works. On being hit by a melee attack, consume or stage trigger Gale Force. So yeah, Gale Force is applying Blind and Maim, but we really don't want to get hit, so I don't know if these are actually doing the job. Leap Slam, we've got nothing in this right now, so we need to do something with this. Bone Shatter, again, only one socket for a 4 socket right now. We need to do something with this. Berserk, this is also giving us a ton of damage. Now we need to percentage this up. This would be a lot better with the Gemling Legionnaire, but you'd lose that advantage of the Ascendancy. So basically, Vitality and Precision in this, and this is giving us 1% increased life regeneration and accuracy, which is then re-synergizing with our accuracy node down here. In theory, right? Falcon Drive, which is what we're doing to get a ton of attack speed. Now, and I'll note the attack speed on this so far, like unjuiced is like, it's saying 3.27, but it gets as high as like 4 point something. So it's quite fast. Yeah. Anyway, so then we have Hammer of the Gods, which we're basically using Fist of War, Heft, we're using Heavy Swing, and we're using Rage Forge. Because we generate so much rage, we can then abuse that mechanic to blow shit up. So this gets up to like 50 or 60,000 for now when we hit something. So this is going to be pretty effective, and we need to reduce the cooldown as well for this so we can hit it a lot more often. And this is basically like our get our jail free card with boss fights and stuff like that. This is really the only skill that costs any major mana in the build, and we need to really target down and figure out how we're going to scale this up. But I feel like there is every potential for this build to work. We have like 59% rarity without trying too. It's just built into our gear. That's it for the gear. That's it for the gem setup. So yeah, right now there's a lot to be desired. But anyway, this is going to be a fun series because we're just going to try and do some really off meta crap and make some crazy shit work. Hopefully I'm smart enough to figure out how to make this work. Now, for the skill tree, we're using Witch Hunter because that's what I spec'd into. So, first of all, Zealous Inquisition is like the best part of the Ascendancy. That's an explosion that you can see. So it's like the old Explodey chest in Path of Exile 1. I really like it. I think there's a lot of potential for it, but it's really unreliable. It's like 10% chance for enemies you kill to explode. It's like 1 in every 10 enemies. So it sometimes triggers reliably, sometimes not. I wish there was a way that this could be like scaled up in your skills like other things, but I'll take it for what it is. We're also using Witchbane and No Mercy. This also gives us like concentration disruption to enemies, so we do increase damage based on the concentration they've lost, which is what's giving us a lot of damage. Now, for the 4th Ascendancy, when I get it, I'm going to go Culling Strike, because I think it's going to be probably the most useful out of this. I can't see Weapon Master being very useful at all, because this is just like weapon switch points, right? So it's not worth anything. Now, so we'll pretty much stick to that. We'll go Peterless Killer as our last Ascendancy when we get that. But basically, yeah, we're coming down, we're grabbing like all the attack speed nodes. Now, I need to play with the damage numbers around attack speed as to whether or not we splice this off and we grab more rage on hit, or go to like, sudden infuriation, so we have max rage within like a few hits, or 3% chance to get max rage. I need to just have a play with this as an overall. I feel like these nodes here are underutilized, so Impair and Reaving could be really useful, and we could spec something out of something else to be able to actually do something with it. There's also the potential for like coming up here. I don't really think these are going to do anything. Maybe Smash. I'm not too sure. I don't think that's relevant. I think if we can get more points, then Feel No Pain is going to be pretty useful as well. Now, I got rid of all the bleed nodes. Now, this gives us like increased accuracy at close range, and we're always going to be in close range with this build. This Coated Arms is quite useless. We come down, we can't really use this presence present, and I don't really know why this is in the game. It's like assuming you have an ally close by, but there's really no good opportunities for that, unless like totems count. But then like, how good is that? So we come up and we grab these like nodes up to Unexpected Finesse, which gives us gain accuracy equal to your strength. Now I'm starting to think like that's not as useful as it sounds like it might be. And then basically we could take like these Thrill of Battle where we're surrounded and we basically get tons more evasion for this. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 points, and we get like 30% increased evasion, or 60%. 50% increased damage and 20% increased attack speed while surrounded, and a lot of regeneration as well. And that might actually be a really good node to take, because we do tons of damage to bosses anyway. I don't really think we need to... Yeah, I don't think we need these nodes. I think this is going to give us a lot more value. So we respec 4 points out of here, maybe 1 dual socket point here, and chuck it into here, and then we just need to find 1 more point off maybe these attack speed radials. Like this accuracy here is probably not as useful as it seems. Well, that's actually totally useless. So, and maybe that too. So we can respec that out and get a ton more damage into the build that way, and we can keep that point there too. So we get 4 plus 2, 1 off of each of these into here, and then we can take this node, and that's going to make us way more tanky and way faster and hit way harder. And then basically we come down, we're actually using Sand in the Eyes as well, because we're using Blind to proc on enemies, so 15% chance to blind enemies on hit. I actually think it's a good stat. I think it's useful in this game, so potentially, yeah, we could progress that further. Then we go and grab Giant Slayer. This is giving us a ton of damage to enemies, so 20% increased accuracy gives us increased attack speed, and then it also gives us 25% increased damage with hits against uniques and rares. Ideally, we probably also want to take like Culling Hordes and take this increased attack speed here, so we get another 8% increased attack speed, or we can take the increased damage and attack speed. Either way, it'll work. And then we grab Pinpoint Shot. This is giving us like increased accuracy equal to crit chance. I don't necessarily think this is as useful as I think it might be, so we can probably ditch this and put it in here. And then we don't need that point. That's useless. All these, as I said, all these need to be changed. We'll probably just stack a shit ton of evasion and increase damage with hits against rare and unique enemies on every single one of these nodes to get more damage out of this. We definitely want to have +1 to charm. We need Falcon Drive. Falcon Drive is really useful on this build, though we don't need that accuracy and attack damage node because I feel like it's lost. Acceleration, yeah, there's like nothing better than this point. This point is GOAT. And then we basically come up, again, this is pretty bad. This is all scuffed, right? But we come in, we grab all the evasion nodes in here. We grab all the dex nodes as well, and we come down and we get rapid strikes. So if we switch out 2 points, we get reaching strikes, which is going to give us +2 to melee attack range. You don't think that is significant until you play a build like this, and then you realize it actually is quite significant. And then we come back up. We got another socket up here, which we need to work on. And then we grab this sharp sight, which gives us 30% increased accuracy against unique enemies. And like, this is just targeting unique enemies specifically to be able to drop them, right? So we get increased attack speed again, and increased crit chance, and 30% increased attack damage against rare and unique enemies, which I think is really useful. We could also take this to 80% increased damage with hits against enemies that are on full life. That could be really freaking useful. And so, yeah, actually thinking about this, we could probably switch this down and then put this in here, and that's going to be a lot better for mapping. And then, yeah, increase blind effect and blind on hit. Anyway, I thought this would be a bit of a different... Oh, that's actually pretty... Falcon technique is pretty good too. 1% increased attack speed per dexterity. 15 dex, so that would give us a pretty good increase to attack speed with bonus dexterity as well. So we could respec those nodes off here, chuck it in there, and then get a ton more dexterity. So we could start like dex stacking on this as well, and then basically do a ton more damage that way. Anyway, that's the idea behind the tree, and I'm sort of excited about doing a series like this because now we've effed up enough builds. We're at the point where we can start like cooking. People were asking me as well about like, you know, why don't you do a series on making a build? And you know what? This is probably a really good start to that. Now, I got another build that I've already put together that's doing T15s using the Gemling Legionnaire, which is really, really consistent. It's basically what I'm using when I play console. It's pretty tanky. It's just your standard mana stacking well, was it mana and int stacking Gemling Legionnaire. Gemling Legionnaire I find is it's like really versatile for builds like this. Titan, I just don't think has the utility that some of the other builds have, though with something like this, you could probably make it work really well. Yeah, so anyway, we might start investing in making a series like this, but think of this as like a part 1 for the windmill flailing mace build or something like that. I don't know what I'm going to call this build, but I thought this would be a little bit of fun to talk about and basically see how this progresses, because it was just like a stupid idea I had late last night, and I was like, oh, wait a minute, this actually makes sense that this would work because the skill works. Now, some of the issues with Path of Exile 2 around scaling is armor doesn't work. Don't waste your time. Tried that to death. Unless you're going to run max block on a shield, I would recommend running evasion and max block on shield if you're going to play melee. It just feels way better. It's going to work with a ton of stuff, and yeah, and like Gemling Legionnaire again is probably going to be the best for that because you can overcap your resistances pretty easily, and you get so much more bonus effect out of strength. And you also get accessibility to nodes like this one down here, Polymathy and stuff like that, which gives you increased attributes, and also the Jack of all trades and all these like reduced attribute requirement nodes, which are really useful to running things like Giants, was it Giants Blood? It gives you the ability to spec into it really early. But yeah, outside of that, like evasion's going to be your best friend, mana stacking is your best friend. Anything with attribute stacking is really useful and really powerful in this game. ES stacking is really strong but really expensive. And you know, you guys have seen tons of builds out there anyway that muck around with a lot of stuff. Max block is really, really useful if you're running a shield. But in this case, we're going dual wield. So yeah, we're going to do something really dumb and stupid. Anyway, if you like this type of video and you want to come along for the ride, I thought I'd do something really different because I don't want to do the same old, same old. Basically, how builds work is if you have enough currency or enough investment, you can make pretty much anything work. That being said, there are just a ton of skills in this game right now that are totally unbalanced, and don't want to say they're undertuned, but they are undertuned. It's a combination of enemies too hard, skill not good enough, and they sit on opposite ends of the spectrum, and that makes some builds or some like build concepts just feel like crap. In other sort of facets of it, some things are too tedious to get working to call them a build. So there's some weird builds out there that are like, oh, I got it working. It's like, yeah, it works, but also the setup for it when you're playing is just like, you either want to click a ton of buttons or you don't want to click a ton of buttons. This one, I sort of just want to make it so I can run through enemies and just like blast with dual maces like an idiot. And I feel like I can get it there to a degree. Anyway, if you guys like this video, sort of concept or idea, it's a little different to how I usually do videos. I'm not going to put a POB in the description below because I don't want you to take this POB and use it right now. It is totally a concept. And if it works, I'll post up progress videos of how this goes. If it doesn't work, I'll post up a video doing a post-mortem about why it's a shit build and why it didn't work. But I wanted to try something different to shake things up. I did have a really rocky start with Path of Exile 2 versus what other people might have had because I just don't like playing what the meta is. I've never liked the meta. I like playing cool stuff. I feel like something like this, when swords and axes get added to the game, is going to be really cool. And this is actually the stuff that I get excited about playing. I don't like playing the mainstream stuff. It, to me, just seems boring. Yeah, you progress a lot, but is it fun? I don't know. You can make that call. Until next time, I'll see you guys later and have a good one.